One of the most singular talents to emerge from the second British invasion of the early 1980s was Thomas Dolby, and from his second album, the 1984 release The Flat Earth, the track Screen Kiss. Already very different than anything off the golden age of wireless. I'm getting more of kind of like a Mick Karn type of vibe, almost like something off titles, going in that direction anyway.
Time at the bar where all the English meet. She used to drink in the hills, only now she drinks in the valleys.
Hear that fretless bass amidst the like ambient kind of soundscape.
Where every road has a name like Beechwood Avenue, or so it seems.
I love that pastel synth tone.
The Croydon girl would really hope to find a home with 1,000 miles of real estate to choose from.
Let's catch up with the lyrics here. Miller time at the bar where all the English meet. She used to drink in the hills, only now she drinks in the valleys. Where every road has a name like Beechwood Avenue, or so it seems, a Croydon girl could really hope to find a home, but with 1,000 miles of real estate to choose from. Huh. So, I guess it's about upward mobility and once you've started earning, a professional income.
You begin to see the value of your freedom. The moon is bright in the haze above old Hollywood. And you look down from the hills, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
As great as the golden age of wireless was, and I do love that album, he has really branched into territory here that would have surprised a lot of people. Oh, that guy? You mean the guy from the... Because this seems to go so much against his image as like the bespectacled like science guy, the like librarian, that image that he cultivated, or the professorly type demeanor that he conveyed in some of those images from the 82 era. He's being much more romantic. Another parallel I'm hearing here is, well, actually a little bit ahead of this comparison, Sting. Kind of territory that Sting would go into as a solo artist, more sophisticated jazz, soul, balladier.
Hail in hand, you can hear his golden surfer boys crying out. Mommy won't come out of the bathroom.
I have to say, his vocal melodies over these verses, beautiful. What more can I say? It's fluid, it rises above, creates this just perfect, curvilinear arc over the like sonic soundscape of this track, and really just elevates the whole piece.
Would you talk to say sorry if we hit you up? But it's buried in the screenplay of his feature. Screen is it? Screen kiss, one screen kiss. Blue filter lights, and pull off Vaseline.
Let's catch up with the lyrics a bit more. You begin to see the value of your freedom. I guess referencing the value of your freedom would reference value being currency, value being how much you ultimately earn, and the means that it provides you in terms of the kind of place you can live in, the kind of community that you can live in. It's like everyone's free to get to whichever level they're ultimately driven to. Although not everyone, it results vary. Let's be honest. But yeah, and let's see. The moon is bright in the haze above old Hollywood, and deer look down from the hills, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Pill in hand, you can hear his golden surfer voice crying out, "Mummy won't come out of the bathroom," and you hoped he'd say he's sorry if he hit you, but he's buried in the screenplay of his feature. So now we're dealing with some fragments of just real life that, despite success in certain areas, there are still distractions, there are still things to cope with, and it looks like now we're learning a bit more about the story. The subject of the song is coping with some home fires, let's say. Screen kiss, one screen kiss, straight from a film I forget who was in. Screen kiss, one screen kiss, blue filter lens, a pull of Vaseline. But all the rushes look the same. Only there's a movie I wouldn't pay to see again. If it's the one with him in. Now things are getting more surreal. I don't know where this is going to end up.
All the Russians look the same. Only there's a movie I wouldn't pay to see again. If it's the one with him, you and I could be a mile above the earth tremors. Hold to me and we'll climb. We can sneak out while he's sleeping.
I love how those pastel like synth tones, I guess it's a Fairlight, how they almost sound like voices. Is it like some kind of like vocal simulation? Like it almost sounds like ah. It really is like this period's equivalent in some ways to the mellotron. I'm getting a similar like kind of thick like simulated choral feel. Only this being much more refined, whereas like the mellotron had kind of an icy, frosty, old world vibe, evocative of centuries past in a way. This ambience is like perfectly suits the age of like chrome pastel interiors, the age of Miami Vice.
Suicide in the hills above old Hollywood. It's never gonna change the world. Change the world overnight. Any more than the invention of the six-gun child. Any more than the discovery of radium. Oh, California tipping in the ocean. Screen kiss, one screen kiss. Straight from a film. Forget who is it.
Tasty very placement of different instruments in this track. I want to find out if we are in a movie or if we are in fragments of a movie or if the movie is just an escape from what was going on in the character's life. You and I could be a mile above the earth tremors. Hold to me and we'll climb. You could sneak out while he's sleeping. Okay, this is starting to make a bit more sense to me now. It's starting to come together. Suicide in the hills above old Hollywood is never going to change the world overnight, any more than the invention of the six-gun child, any more than the discovery of radium or California tipping in the ocean. That's an interesting one. I remember hearing about that like 30 years ago, that California was going to break off and, you know, become an island, that the fault lines were going to crack it off the face of the continental United States. Screen kiss, one screen kiss. So the narrator here is seeing this woman who's in another relationship to an abusive man, and he's trying to convince her of a way to get away from this guy. They're going to he is suggesting they bump this guy off and come up with a perfect crime, devise a perfect crime, influenced, I guess, with ideas taken from a movie they watched together. Now it's, and so that they can then run off and be like one of these renegade couples they had watched in a movie. I see it now. So the descriptions earlier in the song were probably about just the life, the seemingly picture perfect life she was living in the more upper class, in some upper class neighborhood of Southern California, when behind closed doors it hasn't been so rosy. I'm pretty sure I've got the meaning of it. I wonder if anyone on Genius.com tried to explain these. No one's written. I guess I'm just gonna have to go with my interpretation of the lyrics.
Screen kiss, one screen kiss, filtered light, straight off Vaseline. All the Russians look the same. On a desert away, wouldn't pay to see again. If it's the one, if it's the one with him in.
This song is kind of going into a darker moment now. It's as if they've tried to carry out the perfect crime. I'm wondering if a track like this could have been an adult contemporary crossover for him, or if people would have picked up on the lyrics and found it too dark. But then again, I mean, Drive by the Cars became a huge hit the same year as this album, and that was not only very out of character for the band, so out of character that most people didn't even know it was the Cars when they first heard it on the radio. I remember hearing that song on the radio and then was shocked when on MTV I found out it was the Cars. And that dealt with some pretty kind of dark subject matter. It was about a guy trying to get through to a woman who was having a nervous breakdown. A woman who had hit rock bottom, and he was trying to get through to her and pull her up. This one's a bit more wicked because in this song, the guy who's singing is not necessarily a good guy. And these people are going in the opposite direction of like either voice of reason or trying to pick someone up who's already these are Police cars have arrived. Well, I guess they carried through with their plan. We don't know if they make the getaway or they slip up like, oh, who knows? It could have been one of those crimes. Let's say hypothetically, it could have been one of those crimes that they may have gotten away with at the time, but later on, when DNA technology advanced, some lingering piece of evidence, they were able to get, a swab off of it and trace the perpetrators to wherever, or probably long split up at this point. Brazil, New Zealand, yeah, living under a new name. They probably were able to, who knows, the crime probably got solved some, like around 2012 or something. And, yeah, Thomas Dolby, Screen Kiss, from his 1984 release, The Flat Earth, his second album proper. Very prolific during the early 80s, releasing different short players, and his his first album, The Golden Age of Wireless, coming out in like 3 different versions over a 2-year period, with different songs being placed on different. Yeah, it was a confusing state of affairs. It's hard to believe he was only on to his second album by 1984 when you really think of that he had been putting out singles. He had been putting out records every year since 1981. But he really expands on this release in many ways. And, pretty much was becoming a sui generis artist at this point, covering so many different areas of art pop. For more rubies and sapphires from the catalog of Thomas Dolby, see the directory of albums by English tea artists linked in the description below. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, and leave a comment if there are observations you have about the music, the layers, the beautiful sonic bed we heard of, synths and fretless bass and tasty guitar and vocals, and perhaps most interestingly, if there's a different interpretation you have of these rather mysterious, intriguing lyrics. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most air travel maximalist, signing off.